2, 3, 4.
Morning's here, the morning's here, sunshine is here, the sky is clear, the morning's here. Get into gear, breakfast is near, the dark of night has disappeared. Good morning, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to the third inaugural episode of the Good Morning Guys podcast as we continue to discuss the game of life amidst the other games we love, like sports and video games. I'm one of your hosts, the professional PlayStation Platinum Trophy Hunter, Lucas Ham. Also with me are the aspiring and inspiring manager of managers, Patrick Novosel.
What's up, man? That was nice. I really liked that beginning there.
Thank you, sir. The future beat writer for the the Cincinnati Reds, Ronnie Johantis.
Hello.
Bad. And last but certainly not least, our only hope of resurrecting Marc and the Funky Bunch, Marc Boucher.
Good morning. Hope y'all are feeling some good vibrations in here. And I seriously hope that NBC does not sue us for that intro that we just had.
We might just find out sooner or later. Anywho, thanks for joining us on this fine morning, afternoon, evening, or night. If this is your first time joining us, feel free to check out our first two podcasts where we introduced ourselves, talked about why we started a podcast, and shared about our current occupations, childhood dream jobs, and what inspired us to get out of bed every single weekday and work for a living. So, as we've done every week since last week, let's start things out by gathering around the old water cooler and giving some updates on the highs, lows, and in-betweens of our lives this past week. Who wants to lead the way?
I'll go ahead and start this time.
Start it up, Ronnie.
So pretty normal weekend, I think. Our Bengals finally lost, which is rough. They're 2-1 now. Normal volleyball, working out, and then other than that, been pretty good for me. I am in the process of getting my home office set up, so as I do this podcast, I am sitting amongst the rubble, which is left over. My desk isn't entirely screwed down just yet, but I did manage to get the countertop on at least so we can do this. So that is the good news here.
Nice. Where did
Progress,
you get
man.
your desk?
I got my desk from Office Depot. I got it on sale for $197, which was a steal.
This episode is sponsored by Office Depot.
The
office,
we just
we
talked
got
about
the
trying
depot.
to get new laptops. I mean, this is the way to go, fellas.
No doubt.
But other than that, everything is going very well. I did buy a nice computer chair, so I'm not going to be struggling like I was last time.
Nice.
How about you, Mr. Patrick Novosel?
So, over the weekend, I was supposed to go camping, but I did not because Clark got sick. So instead of the entire family staying home, I stayed home with Clark as he was sick. So my wife and my daughter were able to go camping without me. However, it rained on them the entire time. So they weren't able to go hiking. They weren't able to have a fire. They weren't really able to do anything while they were camping.
Man.
They said it was the most miserable camping trip that they've ever been on. So
That's
while
terrible.
they were, I know, right? I think it was last time, earlier this year, we went camping, and it was in July, and it was nice. It was 70 degrees the entire weekend. It was phenomenal for a weekend in July. But so it happens to be where, you get the good with the bad. So that's done for them. But while Clark and I were home, he was lethargic and he didn't really want to do anything. So we just sat on the couch and watched a couple movies. So what we watched was WALL-E and Ratatouille. Two homework
Is
assignments.
initiated.
Okay, so I'm going to give my thoughts about WALL-E first. So
Let's hear it.
WALL-E, fat guys in floating chairs.
Come on. It's more than that. Come
Did
on.
I not tell you?
Okay, so it started off, I see WALL-E, and I'm like, wow, that totally looks like Johnny Five from Short Circuit. Seriously.
is alive.
No disassemble.
more input. No, seriously, there's a lot of similarities between that, but it was okay. There was not a lot of dialogue. There was just more like, I at first I didn't know if his friend Eve was named Eve or Eva, because Wally kept saying Eva. I'm like, what in the world? I thought his name was Eve. But anyways, I don't know.
It is Eve, by the way.
Why you got to give Wally a hard time? He's got a speech impediment, okay?
So
just give him a break.
So I'm watching the beginning of it, and the whole thing is they're trying to find some sort of plant life, or so these humans can come back from space and re-inhabit this Earth. However, when you see what they have on this ship in space, why in the world would they want to go back to Earth, where there is a ton of garbage still? I don't understand. They have all these electronics. They have all the food they want. I mean, they've been up there for 700 years, and they're still living up there. I don't understand why they would want to go back to Earth. But anyways, yeah, I I don't understand at all. It was when you said in the first episode that about the prophecy of Wall-E, were you talking about where we just become lazy people who don't communicate with each other, who are in front of the screens all the time? Was that your prophecy? Correct. So I got that. You know, it was kind of a play on the society and the age we live in, of people just in front of their screens all the time, being lazy. I get it, but it was not a good movie.
Oh, come on. You're breaking my heart, Patrick. You're breaking my heart.
I gotta be honest, everything that I've heard about this movie so far, I think I'm the last of the four to not have done this assignment, and I am going to go ahead and pass on this one. I will make it up. I will make it up in the final.
Patrick, look what you did.
Well, okay, so Wally's friend throughout the entire, the beginning, maybe then in the end, was this little bug.
It's a cockroach.
It was a cockroach?
Yeah, man.
I don't know what a cockroach looks like.
He fed it a Twinkie? Yeah, that's totally a cockroach.
Yeah, okay. So this huge friendship between a robot and a cockroach.
That's not the focus of the movie. Come on, man. You're killing me.
Just the first
God,
third.
this movie sounds great.
No, right. I mean, there's to me there's better Pixar movies.
All right.
However,
we struck out with Wall-E, but how about Ratatouille?
So Ratatouille, it was a cute movie. That was about it.
There was more dialogue. Come on, man.
Okay.
You couldn't handle the silence of Wall-E, but hey, Ratatouille, they talked all the time.
Well, the beginning was funny when this family of rats are running around trying to steal food from this grandma, but the rest of the movie, he's making food for humans. He's touching all the food. He's getting in the pantry. He's getting in the freezer, and he's making food. I mean, I don't know if you know, but rats carry diseases. Like,
he washed his hands. They showed him wash his hands multiple times.
Yeah,
Come
and most
on.
of the time they had
What more
Linguini
could you ask
doing
of the
it.
guy?
So,
and he was a different rat.
Okay, so I suspended my disbelief from this for
Really?
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I tried. I really tried. The story is about this unlikely duo between this Linguini guy and this rat, and then it just takes a crazy turn where this rat figures out that if he pulls this Linguini character's hair, he can move his arms. He can move them around.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Nerve
yes.
connections, spinal cord, brain. It's right next to the brain.
Oh man,
It's like one of those dragons on Avatar.
Yeah, I don't know about. I didn't know about this movie either. But what you did say from the last episode, when you said not everyone can be a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. I mean, that was a pretty cool speech. Pretty cool saying that. I mean, if you follow your passions, you can pretty much do what you want.
great artists can come from anywhere, even the sewer.
So I mean, it was a good story within a weird packaging.
Well, I'll admit that the whole rats making food is really gross. But you just have to admit, with Pixar movies, even though they have like weird things they do, they always have this nugget of truth or this little moral of the story that I just think connects with all ages, and it's really good. But I to each their own. Pixar is art, so everybody interprets it a different way and focuses on different things. So I appreciate you trying, man.
So
For
yeah,
sure.
was WALL-E and Ratatouille? When was that in the Pixar timeline? Was that before, like, Toy Story, or is that post Toy Story?
Well, that's all. That's all
time?
post.
So they're both
Because-
they're both post original Toy Story, and I think they're both post Toy Story 2.
Correct.
But I think they both came before Toy Story 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I must have. I saw the Toy Story movies, but I never saw WALL-E or Ratatouille. I guess they fell off the wayside. I mean, they came out when was I, like 20? So I had other things on my mind, I guess, at that time.
You were you're too
yeah.
good for animated
Too
stuff.
good for WALL-E. Yeah.
Too good for Wally.
But on the gaming front, I played the Batman season 2.
Yeah, you did.
The Enemy Within. Played all 5 episodes this past week, and that was awesome. Now, I don't know how many Telltale games you've played, but what I like to do was when I'm playing those Telltale games is, because you can choose your own adventure, I chose the weirdest off the wall answers whenever I was given the option. So whenever I was given the option to become friends with Joker or say nice things to Joker, I did. Whenever I was given the option to side with the villains rather than heroes, I did. Whenever there was one part where one of the options was when Riddler was dead right in front of me, one of the options was poke him. So I poked him, and then the person right next to me who was watching me, some sort of cop, she looks at me, giving me a weird face, like, "Why'd you just poke him?" And the guy Batman just shrugs.
I'm Batman. I
Yeah.
can poke.
So that was a good time. I really liked the Batman season 2. I played both season 1 and season 2, so they were both good. I also played Overwatch. I play Overwatch on Monday. Every Monday with Lem, with Eric Thompson and everything. And I have to mention Eric Thompson because
Yeah, you do.
he's been trying to keep me honest because I haven't talked about Overwatch these past 2 weeks. And he's right, because I play Overwatch 2 to 3 times per week, and I play it with Eric. And he's my healer. I don't know if you've played Overwatch before, but there's the different classes. There's like healers, there's DPS, damage per second, and then there's tanks who take all the damage. But he's my healer. He heals me as I get into the action. So he gives all the good call outs. He does tremendous work with Mercy, and he's an absolute joy to play with. So I had to give a shout out to him. And then lastly, I played this new event mode in PUBG with Marc on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So PUBG, it's a you play against 99 other people, 100 people on this map, and you're supposed to be the last one to survive. However, this event mode, it's 2 teams of 10, and your goal is to get 50 kills as a team in this small little circle of the entire map. And in Marc and I's first match in the event mode, we got the 50 kills, and we got that chicken dinner.
Nice.
So it felt,
Well done.
yeah, it felt like old times.
It's probably the easiest chicken dinner I ever got.
Well, yeah, when you got a team of 10, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of action. I mean, you drop with level 3 armor, level 3 helmet, health, a gun that you normally would get from a loot drop, one of the plane drops. So you start off with some sweet gear and a sweet gun, and you're into the action right away. So that was pretty fun.
Cool.
But yeah, that's about it for me. How about you, Marc?
Well, most of my week was pretty much the normal grind, the 9 to 5, and all the normal stuff that goes on within a week. Definitely played that war mode with Patrick, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it's something to definitely tide us over until the blackout comes out, and PUBG will effectively be dead. But in any case, like I enjoyed it, and it's kind of like they threw a little Call of Duty into PUBG, and it was very enjoyable. So and it was much easier for me to get kills. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and obviously I always enjoy playing with Patrick.
Yeah, what's great about that is because we were able to respawn. So once you die, the match wasn't over. Once you die, you respawn and you fly back into the map. So that's how you kept getting into the action, which was way more.
You get to gather all new weapons when you drop.
No,
anything?
you start with weapons.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, every time.
You actually start with a pretty decent gun. You start with you actually have a first aid kit that they start you with. Try to think what else they get you started with.
Yeah, you start with the guns are like the Gorza, the M24, all the guns that you start with that you would find in like loot boxes that the planes drop.
Yep. So that was awesome. And Friday, I actually had Friday off, so I got to participate in No Work Fridays with Mr. Ed Placencia, and Patrick was there among several others. And I got to I did this little mic drop. Basically, I won the first game, and then I just like, okay, I gotta go.
For those who don't know, what is No Work Friday?
So, if you guys aren't familiar with Married to the Games at all, there's a guy on the show. His name is Ed Placencia. He has been really getting into Twitch streaming lately, and every Friday, about midday, like 1:00. He'll just start streaming one of the Jackbox party packs, which is like a collection of different like little party games that you can play on a console, but also through your smartphone. The smartphone is the controller, and so he does this every Friday, and he has some regulars that come through and play. Most days, most Fridays I have to work, but I didn't have to work this Friday, so I got to jump in. And I won the first game, and then I dropped the mic and left.
Yeah, you bounced.
Yeah, I had
go out on top.
Yeah, I had some errands I had to run, but Saturday was pretty much a pretty chill day for the most part. And Saturday was our normal get together with my wife's family. We go out to the Mexican restaurant here in town, which is always good. And I tend to, I'm a creature of habit, and so I tend to always order the same thing whenever I go to this restaurant. And my father-in-law was like, no, this time everybody has to order something different. They have to order something they don't normally order. So I did, which was funny because I basically ordered what I normally order wrapped in a burrito. So
Cheater.
Hey, it counted though. He let it slide.
Finding that loophole.
But everything was good, of course. And then Sunday was normal church stuff. One of the kids in the youth group, her birthday was on Sunday, and we had originally had an activity planned the Saturday before, but we had to postpone it. And so in light of that, I wanted to make sure we had at least one fun time activity that I could take the kids to. And so we went to the local bowling alley, which I haven't been bowling in forever. Now, this place is like bowling, go-karts, laser tag, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so like a big, huge event center.
Yeah. So I took them there, and they had a blast. I hadn't bowled in like 5 years, and I wasn't. When I first started, I was pretty sucky at it, and so I have to admit I turned the bumpers on. So.
Wow. Did you even have kids with you to blame it on, or did you just be like, I'm just gonna put these up right here?
Yeah, I was basically like, I kind of want to have a good time, so I'm just gonna just gonna put these bumpers up. Yeah, I don't care. Nobody's gonna judge me. So yeah, I put them up, and the funny thing is, like, once I put the bumpers up, I actually started bowling better. Like, I wasn't constantly hitting the bumpers. I was actually bowling it straight. So it's like I needed those boundaries. But yeah, that was a fun time. And then Sunday night, my in-laws had dinner at their house this time, and my mother-in-law made this chicken that was wrapped in bacon and cheese.
Oh, I'm in. I'll be over.
Thought you were gonna say wrapped in a burrito.
No, negative, Ghost Rider. But no, it was wrapped in bacon and it had cheese on it. And it was like some kind of barbecue rub or something that my father-in-law put on it, and it was.
My mouth is watering.
So he actually in some of them he put. Wow, what did he put in there? Jalapenos inside the chicken, and also some sort of like cheesy type stuff inside of the chicken.
Like the hot jalapenos, or is it just regular jalapenos?
I would assume hot jalapenos because they're all about that. So
Wait, are there jalapenos you can like de-hotify?
Yeah, I
Like,
didn't know this
you
was a
just-
thing either.
They're like green peppers, or
you just have weak
that work?
ones.
Different levels of jalapenos.
Yeah.
Yeah, these were like next level jalapeno. I mean, I don't know because I didn't get one because I am a wimp when it comes to spicy foods, so I won't touch that. So my mother-in-law was nice enough to make some without jalapenos in them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
She-
isn't that sweet?
She loves me.
using the bumpers to bowl, and then using grandma to make you food that you want.
But
Come on, Mark.
The safe lifestyle you're living, sir.
and a beautiful one it is. But yeah, we had a great time. We had, like I said, we had the chicken and we had potato wedges and all that kind of stuff, and played some more Exploding Kittens. So that was awesome. And then it was back to the regular work grind on Monday, and I think I pretty much covered the gaming. I did move the needle some on Spider-Man, and did some streaming with that up on our Good Morning Guys YouTube channel. So
Yeah, you did. You and Pat have been streaming Mad Men lately.
Yeah, I figured I'd jump into it, and it sort of, I don't know why, because Spider-Man is an awesome game. It's just for some reason, sometimes when I get home, I just want to chill and watch other people game. Like, I'll watch Twitch, and I really need to move the needle, and so this sort of motivates me even more to keep going with the games that I'm playing. Is like, well, I stream it, so then it motivates me to keep going, and then I actually get into the game, and I was like, oh yeah, why am I not playing this game? So I did a couple of streams with Spider-Man, and I was also playing a little bit of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which has been good so far. Now, I listened to I believe it was the latest episode of Married to the Games, where Ed was talking about Lara's face and her hair, and they kind of iffy, and he pointed that
What's wrong with it?
it just looks like they didn't really spend a whole lot of time on Lara as much as they should. It was like,
Which doesn't make sense, because that's the person you look at the most.
Right?
yeah, it's like the landscapes and everything look amazing. They look beautiful, and then Lara's like, oh yeah, I forgot Lara Croft is in this game. So
It's like PS1 style polygonal face.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's like
Okay,
it's like
that's good.
it's like PS3, I would say. Maybe a little better than PS3. I just feel like they could have put a little bit more effort into her. But that being said, it's the Tomb Raider, style of games that I'm happy with. I enjoy playing those types of games, and the story's interesting. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. So, and that is about me, and I feel like about it, and I feel like I've been talking way too long.
Nah, man.
No, man, it was only like 8 minutes and 47 seconds. It's all good.
That was my target.
Who's counting?
All right. Well, for me, I've been working from home as usual. I've been working a little extra hard this past week, in part because this past Sunday I preached in Portuguese for the first time in a while. And let me tell you, that is not for the faint of heart. Preaching in another language is just talking in another language with everybody staring at you and trying to like process what you need to say and, say it with feeling and emotion, not just kind of say what you've written down on a piece of paper. It is not easy. And so I spent a good bit of last week, I have to write out what I'm going to say in English, and then I translate it to Portuguese, and then I read it over and over again in Portuguese and really try to internalize it. So that kept me busy part of last week. And then the rest of the time, I've been working hard to get ready because I am traveling to the U.S. of A.
Whoop, whoop.
Tomorrow.
Coming stateside.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'll be waiting for you. I'm going to be jumping on a plane tomorrow night, going to Ohio, and I'll be in Ohio for about a week, more or less. And then I'll be driving down to West Virginia for another 4 or 5 days. So I'll be in the U.S. about 10, 11 days, I think, almost a week. And during that time, I'll be going to a Work and Witness conference, a ministry conference for missions. I'll be visiting family and friends, meeting with churches and those kind of things. And also, I'm going to be meeting with some brothers and sisters of mine. We're going to be having an MTTG meetup.
Yeah, man.
This Saturday from 3. I think it's from 3 until the sun comes up, right?
Right.
Or
there's no end time.
Or until we get kicked out of the 101 Beat Kitchen in Gahanna,
Yeah.
Ohio.
I think they close at 11, so we're gonna have to move somewhere else.
Till the Olive
Fair
Garden
enough.
closes at 10 o'clock.
That's right. Yeah. And we'll stay till 11:01. But anyways, if anybody's living in the Ohio area, you want to join us, this is a MTTG GMG crossover event. We're going to be meeting up with some of the guys and girls that we have gotten to know over the years with Married to the Games podcast. So I am super pumped to see all these people in real life.
Jealous.
Yes. Yeah, and sorry, Mark, that you got to live all the way down there in Virginia.
Yeah.
If you would have just moved to the right Virginia some years ago, and you would have been a lot closer.
The right
Living that West Virginia.
The right
Virginia. So anyways, besides the travels that I have coming up this past week, I did, of course, a little bit of streaming and some gaming as I've continued to do that good old Rayman Legends grinding of getting those daily challenges. In fact, I forgot to do my challenges today, so actually I think I'm going to have to take a break from the podcast to do that real quick.
Let's go and do it on air while we wait.
Just give me that if you guys don't mind waiting while I do it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll all pause.
It'll be like one of those streams.
We'll pause. Okay, and now we're back. I just got a silver and a gold. But other than doing the Rayman Legends grinding, I actually played a couple rounds of golf, Everybody's Golf, with Marc Schopfer. He's known by
nice.
MLS Chop. It's not actually MLS Chop, but everybody calls him that on Twitter.
I know. I absolutely love that because that's not what it's supposed to say. But I love it.
No, his name's Schopfer. And when I started talking to him, I'm like, hey, how's it going, Marc Schopper? Wait, what's your name? He's like, Schopfer. I'm like, oh. Yeah, I just call you MLS Chop, so it works.
I just thought he was into to soccer and karate. MLS
yeah, exactly.
Shop.
Soccer and karate. It made sense to me.
Karate, soccer, hybrid.
Yeah, but I Twitch streamed that, and my thought was I could start an interview streaming kind of deal. And so I recorded, we talked together, then I uploaded it to YouTube, and then the next day I checked the audio, and it's just me talking. There's nobody else. I thought since we were in a party that it would record everybody's audio, but it most certainly did not. And so it's just
what
me.
You got to do is you got to turn it on, and they have to also turn their party on so you can capture their audio.
Yeah. Did you do it on a PS4?
Yeah, I did it on a PS4.
Yeah, you have to go in manually and do that every time you broadcast.
Fair enough.
You'd have to do it every time?
Yeah, I think you have to do it every time.
It
All
won't
right.
save? I would think it would save.
Well, you guys we'll have to talk a little bit behind the scenes, and you'll have to educate me because I'd prefer to not do that again. because it was quite humorous. I think I left it on the YouTube channel just for fun, but it's really just me like talking to myself, like talking to a ghost, or I was like, oh yeah, I thought that too the other day. Silence. Oh yeah, me too. Man, I better check the rotary girder. I'm retarded next time. Okay. So, besides that, I also did my first Jackbox Hump Day this past Wednesday. And
Nice.
I got to hang out with some people from the U.S., Germany, Singapore, and we had a good old time. It was about an hour and a half. So now I think at least Wednesdays and Fridays we got Jackbox covered between me, Ed Placencia, and Lim. So
Yeah, man.
you can't go wrong with Jackbox.
Dude, when do you
Right.
stream on Wednesdays? Do you have a set time?
Well, for right now, it's early afternoon.
Gotcha.
Evening time is most of the time tough for me. That's why, like, when it comes to multiplayer gaming, when you guys talk about doing PUBG together and Overwatch and all that, I'm like, that would be nice, but I can't.
Would it be nice?
I can't. Yeah, I can't get away from my family in a good way, not in a bad way. Like I can't escape, but it's more just that's just the family time. So my wife and I we're pretty devoted to those 2.5 hours we get before we go to bed after putting the kids to bed, and so that's our talking and show watching time. But someday I'll join you guys though. I'm gonna be like the router of the group and be like, yeah, I'll join you on multiplayer someday. Sure.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Sit on a throne of lies.
I smell like beef and cheese. Besides that, I did get to listen to my West Virginia Mountaineers play a little college football on the old internet radio the other day. I think it was on Saturday, I guess.
Was that a makeup game or is that their actual game?
No, that makeup game with NC State is still postponed until further notice. They played a team,
That's
but I
good.
forget who it was. Yeah, they played
Played a
another
team.
team.
I hope
It
so.
was-
Hopefully
it
they
was
weren't
the-
like you and just talking to each other.
That's correct. Yeah, they're just passing it between.
You were totally listening to
among
one of their
amongst
practices.
themselves. Yeah, it was a practice. It was
Scrimmage game.
the Golden Blues scrimmage game that they do every spring. But no, they played. It was the first Big 12 game. I'm really blanking. I know the next game they play is against Texas Tech, I think, and then after that's Kansas. But anyways, they won rather handedly, so it was very nice. So I enjoyed listening to that. I was under the impression that I could download an app on my Apple TV and watch, but I found out that you have to have a 5th generation Apple TV to download apps. And I have a 4th generation Apple TV, so
jeez.
wah, wah,
That's how they get you.
I failed. That's how they get me. So
By the way,
I'm
Lucas,
considering getting one, but I don't know if I will.
it was Kansas State that they played.
Thank you. So I was thinking Kansas, but then I was like, no, that's not right. But yes, it's the Kansas State Wildcats. The old purple and silver. I don't know if they call themselves that, but that's what
That's
I know
what you
their
call
colors
them.
are purple and silver. And if you just put old in front of it, that's what you can say because it just makes sense. So, with that being said, I think we're all updated now, right? All hearts clear? How about we get the latest in the news with Novacell? What you got for us, Patrick?
Okay, so the first news story that I have is about the new movie coming out in 2019. I think it's October 2019. Is the new Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know if you've seen the photos that are being circulating around the internet, but he's got, it kind of looks like the old 1989 Batman movie with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson kind of Joker. It doesn't
Yeah,
look it doesn't look anything like that Suicide Squad Jared Leto junk that came out last year, whenever it was. I mean, that was the teasers and the trailers for that new Joker were cool, but in the movie it was terrible because it was not what it was all hyped up to be. So, but this new Joker, it looks like it's bringing it back to the roots. I don't know what the storyline is. I don't know who's going to be in it. I don't know if Batman's going to be in it. I don't know if it's going to be just a Joker-centric, his origin story kind of thing.
Do they have a title or anything like that?
It's just called Joker.
I right now it's called Joker, so I don't know if that's just like a placeholder name or if they're going to change it.
All right.
But But the small snippet that I know that's going to happen is he's a stand-up comedian, like a clown comedian. I guess he bombs and then he goes crazy somehow and becomes this Joker.
Weird.
But
all right.
what do you guys think about this Joker and who's going to
Well,
be in it?
I
and
was
so forth?
I was pretty.
Because it's not part of the DCEU.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It's on its own.
The only thing
it's
I
on its
knew,
own.
I had seen the only thing I'd known about was the pictures. Like you said, they have like a very short video, is it? Or is it just pictures of like psychedelic, like it goes between his normal face and then
Yeah, it
Joker's
was-
face with the something
There's
like
a
that.
couple
Like
photos. There's that one, and then there's a short 10-15 second video of him coming off a subway train, and they're like hilarious. I don't know what kind of stuff happens, but he just starts walking away, smiling, and that's
well,
it.
I think in regards to choosing Joaquin Phoenix as the actor, he's already pretty crazy and weird. So I think what
Right,
he's
he
going to
plays-
do is natural for him. So I think it could be cool. I mean, after what's his face, Jared Leto's interpretation of the Joker. Now,
Mhm.
I will say that I did not watch Suicide Squad, but I talked to enough people and I watched like little scenes here and there to understand like he was bad, like maybe
Yeah,
the
don't
worst
watch it.
Joker ever. And then he followed up the best Joker in my opinion, hands down, the Dark Knight's Joker in Heath Ledger. And so I think on one hand, Joaquin can only go up from here because of Jared Leto's Joker, but he's still going to be compared to Heath Ledger, I think.
Yeah, I mean Heath Ledger was phenomenal in his role, than Leto. So there's going to be another Joker, and we'll see what happens.
I think what it really boils down to is what you're looking for, like as a Joker, because like Heath Ledger, like that may have been like one of the best acting jobs like I've ever seen. Like he was dark and just kind of crazy, but I also think
For
like,
sure.
if you look back like at the Jack Nicholson Joker, that was more of like the comic book Joker. You know what I mean? Like that was the Joker I feel like that everybody expected it to be, and Heath Ledger was like this dark character. So I think it's a matter of opinion. Like they're two. I mean, they're playing the same character, but just completely different ways.
Yeah, and with the Joker, you really have to work your creativity within the confines of chaos. Like when you try to get all logical, like even I think the only shortcoming of Jack Nicholson's Joker is that he's just mad because they threw him in a big vat of green Acme gloop, whatever it's called. And so what's cool about Heath Ledger's Joker is that you never get like a logical reason why he's acting like that. He's just working within the chaos of his character, and I think that's the best way to go with Joker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to admit, like the first time I saw the picture of Joaquin in full makeup, I was like, oh no, because I'll admit, I'm a comic book fan, so looking at that picture, it doesn't really look like the traditional Joker. Like he's got a nose, like a painted on nose, and he's got some painted on eyebrows and like a little blue design on his eye or whatever. And they're like, okay, are we just going for a different design for the Joker, or is this going to be like Joker type 1.0 or whatever? And I was like, I don't know. And at first, when I heard Joaquin Phoenix was gonna be the Joker, I was excited. I figured he could probably do a good job. I'm just been concerned with WB's track record as of late, and how they're basically, it feels like they're trying to just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But this
Yeah,
seems,
they don't have a track right now. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and like, okay, what's gonna work, what's not gonna work.
Well, that's all I got. Ronnie, what you got?
Okay, so I will start off by saying that I literally almost never watch golf. Like golf is something that, I would rather paint the inside of my house normally.
I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, watching a bunch of people play golf, I cannot get into that. I played golf through high school. Like, I'm semi-interested in golf. I golf here and there, but watching golf is a different story. Normally it is.
If you want to take a nap,
That's
just watch
exactly
golf.
right. Like, I could sleep to that every night. Just put on like a tour championship.
NASCAR and golf, man.
Yeah,
Instant nap time.
that's exactly right. In NASCAR, you could go to sleep to if you didn't hear them all yelling in the background about how his lug nuts aren't at a certain PSI or something ridiculous. But
I don't think that's the way it works.
That sounds
but I
about
got
right.
you.
yeah, that's
about
exactly right. That's about my knowledge of the NASCAR sport. But my topic today is actually Tiger Woods, and it's Tiger Woods because he just won a championship, and it's the first time he's won one, in forever. And most people, even if you're not into golf, most people know Tiger Woods' story. All the personal stuff that he went through with his ex-wife. All the stuff that he got into. Some of it being pretty terrible things, and a lot of people know about his long road to get back. Not just the personal stuff, but guys battled back through injuries, stuff like that. So over the weekend, he won his first event in a really long time, which a lot of people thought, he probably won't get back to that point. Because, you're talking about a guy who his back is literally fused together. So they had to go in and fuse his back together so he could go back out and play golf again. And the Tiger Woods you see now is not the Tiger Woods that everybody thinks about. You think about Tiger Woods, you think of that young kid with his dad out there playing golf, like just dominating everybody. And what you see when you're watching him play now is it's kind of a battle-hardened guy that's getting older. It's one of those things where you watch your athletes age in front of you, and it's like you see him one day and you're like, wow, what happened? He takes his hat off and his hair's really thin on the top. But for whatever reason, when Tiger Woods is golfing, when he is in the running to possibly win a championship, for whatever reason with Tiger Woods, he draws in more people than any other golfer, maybe any other athlete in general. Because, maybe other than LeBron James, there's not a lot of athletes that could top either one of those guys. Maybe Serena Williams, but, I read an article about this, and it was the most people that had ever tuned in for that particular championship. And it's just Tiger Woods coming back. And we were actually talking about before the podcast, there's the video of him on the 18th hole. It's it's a really cool thing to watch. I truly believe in people getting second chances. People definitely make mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes. He clearly made some mistakes early in his life, but it's a nice redemption story to see him kind of get back to his original form. And a lot of people have that nostalgia about it, Tiger Woods winning another championship, because everybody thought he was going to be, the absolute best, hands down. They thought he was just going to win and win and win and win, and then he ran into all that trouble and injuries. But I don't watch golf at all, and for whatever reason, when Tiger Woods is playing, I will actually tune in to see, and I'm rooting for this guy. All these things that happened in the past with him, all of a sudden, it's like none of that matters, and people are just rooting for this guy. Even though he hasn't won in years, he's still the biggest star in golf. He's the one person that everybody can be like. He's the one person that everybody can just be like, oh yeah, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is doing good. And it's like even people that don't listen to golf are literally talking about him the next day at the water cooler. They're like, oh, did you see Tiger Woods? And it's like, yeah, I actually did. So it's a very bizarre thing, but it's also a good story for somebody literally coming back. But I don't know if you guys happen to see any of that. Do you guys share any of the same thing where, it's Tiger Woods? Would you guys tune into that?
I saw brief highlights of it on YouTube and stuff, and on TV, and just watching this huge crowd just coming in and following him and just being all excited when he won that championship. Now I'm not a big golf fan at all, but the man's paid his dues. The man he had some major failings, and he owned up to it. And it cost him a lot. And, obviously he's had his physical struggles over the past few years. But he kept working at it. He kept chipping away. He kept playing. It's not like oh, this, I messed up in my life and all this other crap is happening to me. I guess I'm done. No, he kept going, I guess. And, there were many, many years where he just wasn't winning. And then all of a sudden, he's like, okay, I'm back. I'm the comeback kid. And so, that's awesome. More power to him for that. I hope he's learned from a lot of the things that he's done in the past and just tries to keep on the straight and narrow with all that and really focuses on, working hard and playing the game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just like one part of that story that is interesting is people don't typically give athletes second chances when they do something horrible. So in
Right.
today's world, I mean, these guys, they are, they make one mistake and people are just, tearing them apart. And they, nobody wants to give them a second chance. And it's different with Tiger Woods because of just the athlete that he is and because of his popularity. So I thought it was a really interesting story. I normally would never watch golf, but something about Tiger Woods still will draw me in. And I'm not going to say that I'm going to sit and watch the whole tournament over the weekend. I'm going to wait until Sunday, and it's like the 17th hole. And it's like, oh, Tiger's a stroke ahead. I'm like, I am tuning in to see him win this thing. But the video of him winning on the 18th hole as he picks the ball up out of the cup, it's a really cool video if you have a chance to go watch it. First of all, I don't know if I've ever seen that many people on a golf course. Like it is. I think Patrick described it. It looks like Woodstock. Like there are so many people.
Yeah, right.
And it's Tiger Woods that draws people back into that, and people, for whatever reason, that they want to believe in that redemption story for him. And I think it's a really cool thing for sure. But on
I think it is cool. Just to add real quick, from Brazil, it's really hard to keep up with American sports sometimes. I have to go out of my way a lot of times to see what's going on. But back in the day when Tiger Woods was at the height of his game, I was definitely paying attention. I could care less, and I could have cared less about golf. But he just, like you said, Ronnie, he's got that element about him that just draws people in, and the storyline and everything that went on with his life prior to the issues and the things that happened to kind of spiral his career out of control. It was cool to see, and it was definitely history in the making. It was sad to see the fall, and over the past couple years, I've seen on a number of occasions where, like on ESPN and the different sports channels, they're like, "Hey, Tiger Woods he's in the race. He could do well, and then he wouldn't really make it." But I'm really glad to hear that he finally got a good win, and he's just not giving up. He just keeps moving forward. So it's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The last story that I have, and possibly the most important story of this entire podcast, is a review of the matchup between me and Mr. Novacell in fantasy football.
I was wondering if this was
and
I can't wait to hear.
I want to make
who
sure
won.
that I talk before him, and I will tell you, I got absolutely destroyed. By a lot. I'm pretty sure my score was almost doubled. It has been a rough year for Andrew Luck's book club. That's all. Patrick, do you want to say any words, any victorious speeches, or anything you've prepared?
Want to kick a
So
horse while he's down?
I do want to say something. So last week I said that I beat him 6 times, and I've lost 0 times against him in our past, and that was incorrect. We've only I couldn't look back more than 2 years on ESPN to see where our matchup stood. But I was able to find 2016 and 2017, and we are 1-1. And after this past week, I am now 2-1.
Yeah, this last week was
called a winning record.
A seriously rough one for my team. I mean, oh goodness gracious! I think I stopped checking about an hour into Sunday's games. It's like, this is over. But that is all I have to share on the sports front. Mark, what have you got for us today?
All right, so it's been an interesting week for gaming, to say the least. If you're not familiar with Telltale Games, they make games like The Walking Dead, They've done some Batman games, as Patrick talked about earlier. He played them. I've played the first season. They did The Wolf Among
Tales
Us,
of the Borderlands.
Tales from the Borderlands, yeah, and some less memorable ones. I guess the Back to the Future one, which wasn't that
Jurassic Park and Back to the Future, baby.
yeah, but in any case, they've come quite a long way in terms of developing themselves as a pretty formidable game developer, and unfortunately, within this past week, they made the announcement that they had to lay off approximately 250 employees as part of what the company's calling a majority studio closure. The employees were let go with no severance pay whatsoever. It's just it's a very difficult situation. I'm sad to see something like this happen. They're basically down to 25 people now, and it's just it's a really rough situation to see. Now the final season of The Walking Dead is in jeopardy, serious jeopardy. They did release, I believe it was episode 2, the other day of The Walking Dead, and but they're not sure whether or not they may be able to get somebody else to give them support to finish. But at this point, it does not look good for Telltale, and you could feel it. People were pretty upset by this because they made great games. They kind of took the whole point and click adventure kind of thing and really just expanded upon it. And it's just really sad to see something like this happen. Like any place where a bunch of people like that have lost their jobs, all of a sudden with no severance, no nothing. And I believe one of the people that worked for Telltale actually filed a class action lawsuit, basically alleging that Telltale Games in this mass layoff violated California laws in terms of being able to do something like that. So it's a rough time for the people at Telltale. They have 25 people remaining to, quote, fulfill the company's obligations to its board and partners, basically looking to close up shop and tie up loose ends. And so what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I first heard about that story, my first response was, oh man, we're not going to get the final season of Walking Dead. We're not going to get another Batman series. We're not going to get the Avengers series, which was my first reaction. I'm like, why aren't we going to get more of these games? I hope this is ridiculous. And then I took a step back and I felt like, wow, that was super, super insensitive, because all these people just lost their job. 250 people lost their job. And Ronnie and I know how this feels a little bit, because this happened to us 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
That three weeks ago, something like that, where 300 people were laid off at our company, and people were just like, well, they got their severance, but it was just like the morning of, they're gone. No notice, no nothing, just gone. And after I remembered that's what happened with us, I kind of was like, wow, what are these people going to do now? I mean, they're not going to get any severance. They're out of their job just like with a snap of the fingers. And after this news broke, the gaming community really banded together. Other companies saw this, and they were reaching out on social media saying, hey, anybody who's affected by this layoff, contact us. We have open positions. We have all of these positions that need to be filled by the people that have these skill sets. And the skill sets that are needed were from these Telltale former employees. So I thought that was really, really cool when all these companies were reaching out like, hey, you don't have a job at Telltale anymore, but we want to give you a job. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah,
that is really cool. And
I
Oh, go ahead.
I'll go ahead, Ronnie.
I was going to say one thing that, since we, on the 6th, our company laid off about a quarter of its workforce, so about 300 people. And up until that actually happened, I think it's easy to read something like that and take just a total step back from it. When you read an article, you don't necessarily feel, anything. Or you see a news story, you're like, oh, that's horrible. And, you kind of go on with your daily life. But after something like that happens, you realize, how horrible something like that is actually. I know for us, like for Patrick and I, a lot of people got laid off that, we've been working with for years. So you're very close to those people. And, it stings. It stings for the people that lost their job. It stings for the people that are left. It just makes you look at it in a whole different manner. And I think that's like, when I heard about this too, like it's, it definitely hits a lot closer to home now for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to confess that, like Patrick, I definitely reacted in a very superficial way. But I think we need to give people context. For those that don't, that aren't big nerds like some of us and listen to video game podcasts and kind of, over the years, as I've been listening to different podcasts with IGN and some of the other video game outlets, they talk about the rhythm and the ebb and flow of game development and how there's times when you have a job and then there's times where you don't have a job, and you kind of have to be prepared at all times for things to shut down. But when I took a step back and really looked at this situation and got past the fact that, oh my gosh, they're not going to finish Walking Dead the final season. How could they not do that?
Yeah.
When I looked at it for what it was and how these 250 people didn't have a warning, that all of a sudden just the lights went off and they said you can go home because you don't have a job. That is not part of the game development cycle. Like, this was a big company. They were working on multiple games. It just came out of left field, and I'm frustrated for them. And there's obviously some poor financial and administrative planning and communication. Definitely a lack of communication that went down. But like Patrick said, it's really awesome how people rallied around them, how companies came out and are providing them with opportunities and giving people a chance to bounce back off of this. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, man, definitely.
And I think this is going to be like a Phoenix thing. Like, okay, Telltale's they just burn to the ground before our eyes. But I think from the ashes, a new company's going to rise up. I think the types of games they make that are really story and decision driven, I think there's enough people out there that like that they're going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to kind of learn some lessons from Telltale. Hopefully they're going to fix that engine and really get it running smoothly. For those that have played Telltale games, they're known for like these hiccups and these bugs that just happen in the middle of your game. And so hopefully with all that said, like, I think good's going to come out of this, and I think the gaming community and the companies are really going to rally around these people that lost their jobs, and everybody's going to be better through this experience. So
in other news, so Sony decided to pull a Nintendo after long saying, hey, backwards compatibility is nobody's interested in it. It's not feasible, or not, we're not interested in it. And then, hey, we're putting out a PlayStation Retro console, PlayStation Classic.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
but
I don't really think anybody should be surprised at this point.
Yeah.
For one, Nintendo's not the first one to do it. They're the first one to make a big deal about it. There's the Atari Virtual Console. There's Genesis. That they both came out before. From what I know, anyways, came out before the Nintendo one. So I can't say that Nintendo is like. I know they've come up with a lot of original ideas, but it really shouldn't be a surprise that PlayStation did this. I mean, it's all the rage. So
yeah,
why not?
So yeah, they announced that they are making a PlayStation Classic. Comes with 2 controllers and has an HDMI port, much like the NES and SNES Classic, like that. It's going to cost $99.99, and I believe it is coming out on December 3rd. Yes, December 3rd, just in time for the holidays. And
But after Black Friday.
Yeah. I don't know why they would do that, but hey, they're the ones that make the big bucks, and I'm not. So
Have they announced the games yet?
they
for that?
have not.
Only
They have
5, I think.
Yeah,
right?
they've only announced 5, which would be Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Ridge Racer Type 4, Jumping Flash, and Wild Arms. And yeah, they have not announced any of the other ones so far. But yeah, this is a thing. This is happening. So, Patrick, what do you think about this?
I really don't care for the PlayStation 1, the classic kind of games. They were all polygonal. They were choppy. They were ugly.
They
I mean,
are
this is the
really
first.
ugly for
This
sure.
is the first like 3D kind of venture into the gaming world. So I'm not really excited about this one. However, if they're gonna throw some games on there that I remember playing when I had the PlayStation 1, then maybe I will try it and pick it up. Do you know if is there going to be trophies on this? Is this going to be internet? Are we going to be able to play online with other people?
I don't think they've said anything about that at this point. The details are kind of limited. So
Oh
I'm
man,
sure.
if they have trophies, I am in all the way for sure.
I feel like that would be a missed opportunity if they don't throw trophies in there.
Yeah.
No doubt. I agree with you 110%, Patrick. For me, I'm not on board like day one buyer because, for one, it's really hard for me to get electronics from Brazil. They're super expensive. Like when the PS4 first came out, it was only about $2,000, I think, in cost.
That's it?
Yeah, that's all, just $2,000.
Oh,
So
that's
anything that comes out here that's electronic, it is easily doubled, if not tripled in price. No questions asked. Like, there's no way to get your hands on it. So what happens a lot of times is people, they do the math and they're like, well, I can spend money on a flight back to the U.S., buy the PS4, buy the Super Nintendo Classic, buy whatever, a laptop, and come back, and I'll still spend less money on the flight and the electronics than if I were to buy the electronics in Brazil. I think that's crazy,
Wow.
right?
Crazy for sure.
It is crazy. And so for me,
Why is that? How's that work?
it's called government tax. They love to tax the bejesus out of every electronic known to man, because they just know that Brazilians love it, and they do. Brazilians buy it up. Brazilians fly to the U.S. They find whatever way they can to get it. So I'm not going to be a day one purchaser, but I'm going to get it eventually. I am really intrigued to find out some of the games. I definitely have my own games that I'm hoping that they're going to have. I don't know if you guys played Twisted Metal 1 and 2 or any of the Twisted Metal games,
Yeah.
but man, I love me some
if
Twisted
any of the
Metal.
Twisted Metal, yeah.
I
right.
particularly like Twisted Metal
they
2.
need to be on there.
Because it's got that big muscle guy with the big wheels. I don't remember his name, like Axel
Like Minion
or something.
or something like that.
Yeah, it was Axel.
Axel Minion. Axel, he was the best. The other one that I really liked, some of the sports games, I'm not much of a sports game guy now. I have Madden and NBA 2K and all that, but I don't play it a whole lot. But when I had the PS1, I played games like ESPN Extreme Games, Cool Borders 3. I'd love to have those
Extreme
again.
games.
Yeah, man. I loved Extreme
Oh my
Games.
gosh, I forgot about that one.
So good, and yet it was so
Right?
bad, but it was so good. And me and my friends, we would just do the biking, do the boarding, and all that. And, I don't know if you guys ever played Star Wars Jedi Battles. That was basically based off of I think Episode 1 of Star Wars, but it was like a kind of a side scroller kind of deal, and you just played different areas from Star Wars Episode 1.
I
love that
remember
game.
I remember the front cover to that. It had like Mace Windu on it, and
Yeah,
yeah.
that
But-
was classic.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting to me. I'm not super excited for it. What I'm really not excited for, I am not digging the price at all.
yeah.
These are I know it's a newer generation than say like the NES and SNES, but these are 20 plus year old games. And I really think the $60 to $80 price point is the sweet spot for these things. $100, in my opinion, is really pushing it.
Now I think
Well, the things with with these kind of like the retro classic game systems coming out, like the NES, SNES, and now the PlayStation. Like I don't play over half the games that are coming out for these systems. So the price points for any of these systems is way more than I'm going to actually pay for, because I'm only going to play like 2 or 3 of the games for these systems. Because if you boil it down, I mean, you get 20 games, 2 controllers, a system, and basically $5 per game. I mean, it's not that bad, but if I take into account I'm only going to play 2 games for it, that doesn't make any sense for me to purchase it.
That's definitely not worth it for sure.
Yeah,
But if they have trophies, I think that would at least vouch a little bit more for the higher price point. But I can understand your perspective on that for sure. $100 is a lot for a classic system. Only 20 games. It's the lowest of the classic systems. I think Nintendo and Super Nintendo had more games. Nintendo has 30, and Super Nintendo has 21 or 22. But the thing that I don't like too is with a lot of the games that they're going to have on it, they already have all those games available on PS3 and PS4, like especially PS4. So I'm just like, I've already got it on my PS4. Why in the world would I want it on this classic system where I have to play with a corded controller that doesn't have analog sticks? I'm like, oof, I don't know about that. So
yeah.
I don't know if you guys played the NES Classic, but man, that NES Classic, those cords, they're like 3.5 or 3 feet long. I feel like I'm kissing the television. Like I've got my face
I don't know if you
shoved
remember
against
playing regular Nintendo when you were young, but that's how long they were.
I don't believe
that's
you.
How close you were to the TV.
You.
I mean, we used
that
to
is
play
not
on
what
13-inch TVs.
My controllers had like 10-foot cables.
Close.
They had like 10-foot cables. No, I think what it was is we just would always drag our cables away from the TV, and the Nintendo was always in the middle of the living room, and then the controllers would go off from there. So I think that's the difference.
Well, they make wireless controllers for those consoles too. So
they do. I've heard that. I didn't know that before. So if I get an NES Classic, I'm definitely going to invest in the wireless controllers, because forget those corded things. Those things are terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, terrible. And that's it. That's it for me. I'm out.
Speaking of video games, let's get to this morning's topic of video games. Most of us love them.
Yay!
Sometimes they can be a little controversial. Other times they could be seen as toys for kids and man-children, and for some, works of art. But we can't deny, guys, that they have had an impact on many people, many of us as individuals. They've had impact on our culture, on society in general, whether it's at home with family, at friends' houses, out and about, even now on our phones. There's video games everywhere. But let's start on the personal side, and let's take a step back into our video game history, preferences, practices. And let's start with Marky Mark. Hey, Marky Mark, what are your video gaming origins, brother? Where did you get started?
I love the name Marky Mark. And by love, I mean I don't love.
That's good to know. We might stick it. Make it stick.
Awesome. So, yeah, my love for games goes way, way back to when I was like 6, 7 years old.
What was that, like 93?
Yeah, basically. Oh, 93 was a good year.
Oh,
93
man, I was
was a
totally
very good
guessing.
year.
That's hilarious.
No, you hit it on the nail. 93. And that's actually the same year, Patrick. That's the same year Power Rangers came out.
Yeah,
that was
it
my
is.
jam.
Oh yeah,
I love me some Power Rangers.
Never forget.
Go Power
But,
Rangers. Copyright
Don't
strike.
get me started on that. Less than 30 seconds. We're good. It's all set.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, it goes way back to the early 90s when I was 6 years old. And my parents got me this like really crappy sort of off-brand video game console, and it was called the Channel F. It was made by a company called Fairchild.
What?
It was like
What is
Channel
that?
F? That's
Yes.
the worst video game name ever.
Google
Got it at the
Google
local
that
Big
stuff.
Lots.
That was actually the first console that had multiple games you could play on it, because before that you could only play like Pong. You could get a box and you just played Pong.
What year was
On
this
it.
again?
What?
Yeah, this was like late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was stuck. I was still in '93.
Yeah, I
Like-
got it. I got it in '93, but
Right.
that's the
You
first
found
console.
it. You
that
found
I
it in
had.
a trash can
Man,
in '93.
your parents knew everything about video games. They're like, you know what these kids need these days?
Channel
is
F.
Channel F.
That sounds so wrong.
Yeah, and it was. Everything about it was wrong.
It totally
but that
worked.
was
He
what I
loves
had.
video games now.
But
Then
one day-
Mark, your parents were like, Mark, for the love of Channel F, turn it off.
no, that honestly, I think I pretended the because if you look at the controllers that they have on that, they look basically like lightsabers, and so that's more what I pretended to do
Now,
with it. Was
You should have led with that. You should have never even mentioned Channel F. You should have just said, "Hey, I had this console with lightsabers."
yeah,
Now
I
I get
suppose I suppose I should have, but
You got to work.
in any
on
case, then the Lord blessed me
that. With
with
Channel G.
no.
Upgrade, baby.
That sounds like something you find on the streets. Channel G, baby. But in any case, no. Actually, there's one day, it was like a Saturday or something like that. My parents came home. They had gone yard sailing, and lo and behold, they picked up an NES from a yard sale. And so, and the funny thing was, later that day after I got that, I went to my grandmother's house. We met up with my grandmother, and she goes to her car, and she opens up her trunk, and she bought an NES at a yard sale. So I had freaking 2 Nintendo consoles that I
Richie
basically,
Rich.
yeah. So I basically was able to go back and forth. Like if something stopped working, I was like, okay, well, I'll just borrow this cord from this console or whatever. And I had a bunch of games.
Nintendo
on it.
Chop Shop.
Yeah, basically, and so that's where I really started getting hooked was with NES, and then from there, the love of it just started growing. Unfortunately, I never owned a Super Nintendo. Skipped that generation. I did own a Genesis, and then, the first time I was in the current generation was when I got my N64. And that was a beautiful day. Beautiful, beautiful day. In fact, I remember the exact day I got it. It was February 13th, 1997.
Love is in the air.
Yeah. My dad went to Walmart, and he had gotten it on sale. And I remember I was so excited for that thing. And I actually got up in the middle of the night and went out to the living room and just started playing Mario 64. And my mom heard me, and she came out, and she had some choice words, many of which I cannot say on this podcast. Needless to say, I quickly turned it off and went back to bed. But that's when my love of games just started growing from there. And I just got hooked on it. So.
Cool.
Nice. Cool, man. For me, I have 2 older brothers, and one day, my brother, I think it was my oldest brother, brought home a Nintendo, and I had no idea what a Nintendo was at that time. Obviously, I was 6, maybe 5, 6 years old, and they brought home, I think it was Super Mario and Duck Hunt.
Yes.
So, I was 6 years old. I had no idea how to play. So I watched my brothers play this game. But I really didn't get into gaming really until this game called Tecmo Bowl came out.
Oh
Nice.
man, I
And
love me some Tecmo
Bowl
Bowl.
with Bo Jackson, Tim Brown,
Joe
Lawrence
Montana,
Taylor.
and Jerry
Oh,
Rice,
those-
end zone to end zone, baby, every day.
It was and that's and I've always loved football, and playing a game of football where I can control the football players, feeling like I'm in the football game. I thought that's really when I started to really like video games. Played Tecmo Bowl, got really good at Tecmo Bowl, started to figure out how to use my thumbs, because you need thumbs to play games.
It's important.
So I started to play Super Mario again, and I never was able to beat Super Mario Brothers 1. But when Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3 came out, I was old enough where I was able to figure out how to play those games. But ever since Nintendo, my brother brought home that Nintendo system, I have been a gamer ever since. I had the Nintendo, Sega, didn't have the SNES, had the N64, PlayStation. I even had the Dreamcast at one
Nice.
point. So I've been a gamer since I've been 6 years old.
Nice. How about you, Ronnie?
So I started with a Super Nintendo actually. So I remember going over to my grandmother's house, and she actually had a regular Nintendo. I think regular Nintendo was at like 1985 maybe when that came out.
Yeah, that seems about right.
She had one over at her house, so I would go over there and play that. But at that time, I had the Super Nintendo. So I played all the standard games on the Super Nintendo. But my all-time favorite, I think, when I got really hooked into gaming, was the Nintendo 64. It was like,
yeah, buddy.
it was like nothing before it, right? It comes out, it's got 4 controllers, like you're playing with all your friends and stuff. And my favorite game, I think, of all time had to be WCW NWO Revenge. So you're playing this wrestling game with your buddies. Everybody's trying to grab weapons out of the crowd as fast as they can. But that game was just awesome, and that just kind of started like my whole love for gaming. So what that developed into was, I think I've always liked to play games with other people, not necessarily just by myself. Like I've always liked to get a group of people together. Like some of my fondest gaming memories were, when I was in high school, actually, we would all bring our Xboxes over to my buddy's house, and we did like the 4 system link. We're all in different rooms, yelling back and forth at each other, and we would do this all night. And I think that was like the peak, the most fun I think I've ever had when I've been gaming. Our game of choice was Halo. It's always been one of my favorites. Yeah, man, I used to get so jacked up here in the intro, loading up. You got to try to get in as much trash talk as you can before the game starts or whatever. But that was some of my fondest gaming memories, and I think I've had I've had every Xbox. I kind of fell off the PlayStation wagon after the PlayStation 2, just because it seemed like more of a single player console, and I was more of a have some buddies over, let's play these games type of gamer. And I still am, but the online gaming definitely makes that a lot easier. And how about you, Lucas?
All right, so I vaguely remember my sister owning an Atari, but I did not play it that much. My introduction to video games, I think, kind of like Patrick and kind of like Mark. I didn't have that old Channel F deal, but it was the NES, man. I remember one day my dad came home from work, and he had an NES, and he had the triple pack with Mario, Duck Hunt, and my favorite, Track and Field. Nice. I don't know if you guys played Track and Field back in the day with the running pad.
With the pad? Oh, yes.
Oh, man. I love that thing. And I remember playing that thing so much and really enjoying it. And I remember when, I'd play all 3 of those games with my dad quite a bit. And I remember when I just started, it probably was after a week, I started beating him at all the games. Like he'd be with me, stage 1 of Mario, and then go to the next stage, and then by the 3rd stage he was just dying over and over again, and I would just keep going. And then when track and field, when I figured out how to, I didn't have to lift my legs all the way up. I could just kind of, just a little bit, just tap them up and down, and I could run a lot faster. That's when I discovered how much I was just, as a kid, at least I was a natural at it. Eventually, my dad abandoned me with Zelda 2. I don't know if you guys played the Legend of Zelda games, but we played a little bit of the first one. But Zelda 2, my dad got addicted. I'm talking like he would work, and then he would come home and be like, you want to play a little Zelda 2, son? I'd be like, sure, let's do it. And he would play, but I don't know if you guys remember with the Nintendo, they had batteries and save slots in the games, but a lot of times you had to like hold down the reset button, press the power button while still holding down the reset button, and then let it off in a certain order in order to keep your save. You couldn't just turn off the game. If you turn off the game, it reset everything. And I remember there was one time that I think my dad was on the next to last boss, and he had been working for hours. And I don't remember what happened, but the next day he went to the game and everything was gone. And he was just like,
that's a sad day.
Oh man.
he was just like, I'm done. And I'm kidding you not. He's played hardly anything since then. Like, it just left such a bad taste in his mouth. But from there, my gaming became more social and had more to do with, hanging out with my friends. When we weren't outside playing in the backyard, playing in the streets, we were playing Nintendo and we were hanging out. And as time went on, I got some other systems. I actually got more into handhelds and PC gaming towards the beginning. I had an NES, and then from there I got a Game Boy. I was one of the few that got a Sega Game Gear because I was so attracted to all the colors it had. Because Game Boy, when it first came out, was not very colorful. I eventually got a Game Boy Color, but it still wasn't, in my eyes, very appealing. And then I just started going down the wrong path, and I bought an Atari Jaguar. I have to get this off my chest that's probably my biggest mistake of all time in terms of consoles, because that Atari Jaguar was downright awful. But from there, I got back on track, got a Super Nintendo. I eventually got a PS1. I took a long break during part of high school and college, but then I got an Xbox 360, PS3, and into the present. But what are your guys' some of your guys' most memorable games that you guys beat or finished, especially at the beginning? What are some of the first games you guys remember completing?
I think one of my favorite games, and I guess I'll combine a couple of things here. One of my favorite game probably of all time, and I absolutely loved playing through the entire game and beating it, was The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. That is my favorite video game, hands down. Just all the different temples, all the different side quests and stuff like that. And I'm a big Zelda fan, which I feel bad for your dad, because all the Zelda games he could have gotten hooked on, he got hooked on freaking Zelda 2. And
Yeah.
that's like the black sheep of all the Zelda games. But in any case, such an awesome game, and the final boss, fighting Ganondorf and then fighting Ganon, and the fight just escalates more and more, and then the castle starts falling apart, and you've got to run back down the castle to get out, and all that kind of stuff. It's just such a satisfying experience. And all the music in that game, it's still stuck with me to this day, and I just love everything about that game. It's so good.
For sure. I know for me it was, I remember a slumber party when we stayed up all night playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, and we beat it, me and some of my buddies, and I remember that closing cutscene, the credits rolling. It was quite the memorable experience. But why don't we bring things up to the more current times? What do you guys play now? Share about your preferences, your current consoles. What kind of gaming do you guys get into?
Well, for me, I own both a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, so I primarily play on those systems. But the most up to date games that I play right now are Overwatch and Madden and PUBG. I'm really looking forward to some of the games coming out this fall as well. But those are the ones that I'm playing right now.
Yeah, man, I'm on the Overwatch train myself. I play with Patrick pretty often, and some of the other people from the Married to the Games community. And I have a PS4 and an Xbox One, and I also have an SNES Classic. But I enjoy both consoles. Yeah, Overwatch, PUBG. I've been really into Spider-Man and Shadow of the Tomb Raider lately, and I'm really looking forward to Blackout, to Black Ops 4 and all that stuff as well. Oh, and occasionally I play Call of Duty World War II because that's what my father-in-law likes to play, and so I'll jump in with him from time to time.
Yeah, that sounds good. I always love when these questions get to me because I don't really game that often. So what I typically do is I do play a little bit of Madden right now. Actually, this weekend I was just playing a little bit of Madden, and I was just destroying this person, and I was like, man, I am feeling great about this. And then they asked me to party up, and so I did, and I realized this kid must have been 6 to 8 years old, maybe, and I was just destroying him.
Yeah.
I immediately did not feel as good.
Small victories.
But the games I play now are actually it's kind of funny because me and my friends, they'll come over and, we'll have a couple drinks and play video games and stuff. And the game we've been hooked on recently is Call of Duty Black Ops. So we are way behind. But what we do is we get on the multiplayer and we play all like the crazy like fun games where it's like one in the chamber. So it's basically like the golden gun from 007, one shot kills, and then it's down to knife battles. So we pretty much rage up with that all night. But other than that, pretty much no new games. I actually will probably buy the new Call of Duty when it comes out because I do enjoy those games.
Very nice.
There you go. Well, I am a unashamed Sony pony. I have PS3, PS4. I even have a good old PlayStation Vita. I do own a Wii, but I save the retro and the Nintendo gaming for the kids and myself. We do a lot of that together. I really appreciate Nintendo, but I just like that single player, that single player culture in terms of the story. Not playing alone. I'm not like I just want to play by myself. I love playing multiplayer games, and I love the community and kind of what Ronnie was talking about earlier with Halo and LAN parties. Man, I remember doing those too, and those were really fun. Yeah. But speaking of Nintendo and trophies, my buddy Ken L. at Kenneth DL asked, would you be more likely to play Nintendo games if they had an achievement system?
Yes.
And to answer your question, yes, kind of. I would be more likely to play Nintendo games if they had PlayStation trophy achievements on them. So
wow.
Come on.
So
if you
could get some good old Mario on PS4, that would be amazing, and I would play the mess out of that.
You truly make me sad. I would say no because I'm not very much of a trophy hunter or achievement hunter, whatever you'd like to call it. I play just to play, and I'll play through a story or whatever. I'm considering platinuming Spider-Man, but there are certain things that are like I don't know if I'm going to be interested in plugging into all of that. Just because, like I said, I'm just not a trophy hunter. But I may do it. But yeah, even if Nintendo, I'm big into Nintendo stuff already. They've already got me hooked, so I don't need trophies or achievements.
All right, fair enough. Ronnie, how about you? Any achievements?
I am absolutely not a trophy hunter. So it's funny when you guys talk about achieving all these, doing all these side missions and stuff. You guys want like the 100% completion. I am literally the guy that will get into the story mode of the game, run past all the side missions at full speed, just to get to the end of the game. And as soon as I get to the
You
end of the game,
you skip the cutscenes
I
too.
sleep like a baby at night. I don't even care about them. I'm like, oh, beat it. It's over.
Oh, it's
So
finished.
yeah, I am
Fair enough.
definitely not the trophy hunting type.
All right. It's not for everybody, man. I don't know what it is. For me, it's just like there's some kind of meta game going on that just adds an extra layer of enjoyment. You know, it's a mix between I appreciate and enjoy the games for themselves, but when you get a little extra trophy with it, a little extra ding, and it kind of shows proof of your progress and what you've accomplished, it just adds to the fun for me. But it's definitely not for everyone. Do you guys have any particular games that are just like your favorite of all times? Any games you want to give a little shout out to?
Oh, my favorite game of all time is Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil for PlayStation.
Nice.
I played that probably 15, 20 different times. Not the original one. Every time they made a remake, if they made a remake for GameCube, remake for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, every time they rebooted it and remade it, I played it. And I played each one of those multiple times.
Nice.
Absolutely love that game. The jump scares, the zombies. For whatever reason, I absolutely loved it. I don't like any of the new Resident Evils, like the more action oriented. I like the more survival where you have 15 bullets for the entire game kind of thing. You need to run around, try to run past zombies, try to keep your health up, things like that. I really like that.
All right.
Nice. Ocarina of Time, hands down. Mic drop. Hey, Lucas, what are you into? What's your favorite?
That was a nice transition. For me, I have a number of them, and I definitely won't tell all of them, but the most recent one that I really is definitely in my top 5 of all time is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I easily spent over 100 hours getting the platinum in that, and not only was I, just playing the game, but I had a buddy that here in Brazil that he was also playing it, and we would just kind of give war stories back and forth of the things that had happened in the game. And just, I don't know if you guys have played the Metal Gear series, but it's a very convoluted mess that if you try to make sense of the story, for the most part, you're just going to confuse yourself. But Metal Gear Solid 5 was just all about like going into a scenario and trying to find out one of the 20 ways you could do something. And oftentimes you would just come up with these crazy stories where like you were going in and you missed your target and they were running away and in a helicopter, and then you just shot like one last rocket launch just to hopefully get them, and you got them with the like right at the last second. And like there's just all these little stories that come from the game that I think are really cool. The other game I definitely want to give a shout out to is Skyrim. I sank a lot of hours into that as well. One of the things that a lot of people have talked about in the past is the character creators that you do at the beginning. And speaking of that, I just messed up Tony's name. Sorry, Tony. Tony Mayberry.
Oops.
Oh my gosh. Tony Mayberry asked, what game in the past or present did you have the most fun with the create a character part? So, anybody
gosh.
have experience in
That's
the
a great
create a
question.
character? Have some fun in that?
The creating
Absolutely.
character
Best question.
is one of my favorite things to do in games. I remember back in, I think it was Nintendo 64, it was one of the first games where there were announcers where you put in the name of your character, and they'll actually announce it as you come up from the batter's box to home plate. But they didn't have our last names. I mean, the character, my friends at the time was Novacell, Reifenrath, and Mayberry. So we had to try to select our names to, I don't know, maybe our middle names or something like that. So one of the names that we made was our Tyler Reifenrath. His middle name was Paul. So when the announcers would say the name, they put a lot of the inflection on their first name also. So when Tyler came up to bat, it was like, Tyler Paul? And then Tony's, we put in Tony May, and then also Barry. So it sounded like Tony, May, Barry,
Using his middle
and
name.
then and then for me, I don't know why, but my first name was White and my last name was Patrick.
White Patrick?
Yeah.
That's not racist.
White Patrick.
It was just like White Patrick. Oh man, that was my favorite memory of creating a character.
Man, unfortunately, I never really do a whole lot with creative characters. The only story I can think of is actually a buddy of mine that he played so much NBA 2K like on the Dreamcast and all that kind of stuff, and he would create random players, and he had a couple that he would consistently make across like all the 2K games. He had a guy named Duncan Rimrocker, which dude was like 7 feet tall and had like the whitest afro you've ever seen, and then he would always have just one guy named Bob in every game he would make, and then also I think he made his mom a few times.
Wow, that's special.
I
Yeah.
think when I look back at the like create a character like in games, I don't know if you guys ever did this, but we always used to create like the largest possible human being in Madden
Oh, of course.
and make him our running
Yes.
back.
Yes.
And they were just like unstoppable.
Yes.
It was like a giant out there on the field and just running over everybody.
Yeah, I remember doing that with one of the baseball games on PS1, I think. I would either make them as huge as possible and they would just hit home runs by like breathing on the ball, or I would make them like as short as possible and as small as possible, and they didn't have a strike zone, so like they would get walked all the time. Or you like make them super small and then they have all this power, so they like destroy the ball and they're like little midgets running around. It was really cool. I have to say, Tony, sorry for messing up your last name, and I'm really sorry that I don't really care for create a character anymore. I think back in the day I enjoyed it kind of like Ronnie did, like just making crazy stuff. But man, now I remember when I first played Skyrim and Fallout 4, like I always go into, I want to make this character look just like me. And like I get into all the settings and I'm like, is it this nose or this nose? Is it these eyebrows or these eyebrows? And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm a dad with 2 kids. I got work to do. I can't be spending like an hour trying to make like this perfectly ugly character. So I'm afraid I don't have much in the realm of creative character stories. All right. Well, since nobody mentioned it, I can't go without sharing a question from Derek Broughton, who said, "Why is WoW the greatest MMORPG of all time?" Anybody? World of Warcraft?
Why is it the best?
The
game of all
greatest
time?
MMORPG
of
all time.
I don't know. I played that for I think 2 months. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago.
Like when you
And,
say 2 months,
yeah,
was
stop
it 2 months solid? Like most people that play the game, where they like start and get
They don't
addicted,
know.
Sleep.
and they don't do anything else, or is it like
Never leaves
casually
the
for 2
basement.
months?
No, yeah, it was more casually because 2 of my buddies were playing it, like religiously, 8 hours a day, or all weekend kind of thing, and I would just jump in there, like, okay, maybe I'll jump in. You guys are playing. I like playing with you guys. Let's see what this is all about, and it wasn't for me. I'm not big into the fantasy genre, like the Skyrim or the World of Warcraft kind of games, Witcher kind of games. I don't enjoy the fantasy genre.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy that style of gameplay. It's just not for me. Games like World of Warcraft and even games like similar games like Dota and all that kind of stuff. That top-down kind of gameplay, and planning raids and all that kind of stuff. That's just not my play style. It's not what I enjoy. More power to anybody who enjoys that. But my friend, you are asking the wrong person about that, because that's just not what I'm into. But it's definitely got staying power because it's been around for I don't even know how long, at least a decade or more.
Yeah, it has been around
So.
for a really long time.
Yeah, and I would say that's the answer to the question. Is the reason it's the greatest. If I've never played the game actually, and I know a good bit about it just from people talking about it, but I don't have any personal experience. But I think because it's lasted for so long, that makes it the greatest of all time. So, at least in realms of MMORPG, which don't ask me to say what that is because I don't remember.
Massively multiplayer online role playing.
Boom.
Game.
There you go. Boom. Derek also had 2 other questions, but I'm not sure I'm going to ask about them because one was about PC gaming. Forget the Master Race. PC Master Race. And the other is about someone called Bothwell, and it seems he's trying to shame him for being a noob. Anyways, speaking of being shamed, do you guys tell people that you game, or have you ever been ashamed for being a gamer, quote unquote?
Maybe when I was a kid, well, not necessarily a kid, but like going into high school and stuff like that, it wasn't as cool to tell people that you played video games. And then all of a sudden there was just this mass nerd culture thing that came about to where, yeah, I'm not really super ashamed of it anymore because it's just become so acceptable now for people my age to game. It's not just a kid's toy. So, yeah, I don't have an issue telling people I game.
No, for me, I used to be not necessarily ashamed, but I wouldn't talk about my gaming habits when I was younger. Now that I've gotten a little bit older, video games have grown up with me. The people who are making video games are now grown up, same age as us now, and they're all doing the same thing. And esports are getting big, so it's like Mark said, it's acceptable now. Yeah, that gaming is a part of our culture. It's no longer the Grand Theft, well, kind of is, but Grand Theft Auto kind of games. There's a lot more gaming now than just shooting or getting around, going around and shooting people. There's a lot more stories. There's a lot more love stories. There's things that people connect with and things like that. So I used to be quote unquote ashamed, but I am not ashamed anymore. And I tell people that I'm a gamer. I even have on my board at work that says what's Pat up to, and a little section underneath that is what am I playing, what games am I playing. So yeah, I'm not ashamed of it anymore.
Nice.
He also has like a giant figurine collection at his desk as well.
Oh yeah, I'm a super
just to
super
prove
nerd.
just to prove that he is not
Precious
Precious
moments.
I would say that I'm not necessarily ashamed either. I think when most of us were growing up, there was a little bit of a stigma, like with gamers, like there's nerd gamers, or whatever. But man, it is totally turned around. I mean, that guy just last week, I can't remember his name, was just on the front page. Yeah,
Ninja.
On the front page of ESPN. So I mean, that shows you how big the turnaround was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I really hide it either. I will say I don't go out of my way to be like, hey, I'm a gamer, I play games. Oh, look at me, look. But I would say that usually I talk to people about it when it fits the context, or if people ask. If I know it's going to be like a doorway into a more conversation and getting to know them, kind of making them comfortable, because when you discover that somebody's played games, there's like a camaraderie there sometimes where you're like, oh, you play PS4, what do you like to play? And it can lead to other conversations and really help kind of be an icebreaker. So I definitely look for ways to talk about it like that. Other aspects of gaming in our day and age is it's not cheap. And I think more games are coming out now every week than have ever come out.
Yeah.
So Arctic Warlocks wanted to ask, with the yearly fall lineup of AAA games upon us, I see a lot of games that I would love to play, but only tend to buy 2 around this time due to money. 1 single-player game and 1 multiplayer game. How do you handle your fall gaming purchases? What factors into the decision other than platform?
Well, for me, it really depends on what is coming out because, like he said, there's only so many games you can play. There's only so much money that you have. There's only so much time you have in your life, especially for those of us with kids, that a lot of it, our time is taken up with our family time, with our sports, with our extracurricular activities that we do. So there's only so many games that you play. So, and games aren't cheap. I mean, they're $60 when they come out. So you really have to. For me, I really have to pick and choose what kind of games I play. I don't necessarily go with one single player or one multiplayer. I pick the games that really speak to me. So like the newest game that came out is Tomb Raider. I really, really want to play that, but there's also a couple games coming out in October. We got the Call of Duty game, and then we have Red Dead Redemption 2. So those are the two games that I'm going to play. I know there's so many other games that are going to come out, but with games coming out, I mean, they're getting bigger. They're getting larger. The maps are getting bigger. There's more things to do nowadays within games. It's not just a story. It's not just a game. I mean, it's an absolute world. So I try to limit my games only because I just don't have time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the main thing for me is, I pretty much know, the coming year for games, like what games I know I'm going to play. I know interest me. I have a couple of games that, they might intrigue me a little bit, and if they're not as expensive or there's some sort of a sale, then I'll look into it. But there are games out there, like when I look at trailers and stuff like that, I was like, okay, I want to play that for sure, and that's usually a very small amount. So I kind of have to space my purchases out a lot. Sometimes I've had to trade in stuff to be able to purchase games, older games. Or I mean, I'll trade in older stuff to get or at least put money towards new games and that kind of stuff. Because otherwise, a lot of the older games that I have that were like physical copies, even though, I know some places like to really rip you off. I won't name any names, but older games that just sort of sit there on the shelf otherwise, and so I might as well trade that stuff in towards new games. But yeah, usually I end up only having like maybe 3 or 4 games that like I really want to play. So it's already kind of limiting to me. So
yeah, I am again the center for gaming on this podcast. I pretty much buy whatever games that Patrick tells me is good to get online and play with him. So usually we end up online. I mean, the last game I bought was PUBG, and end up playing that for a little while with Patrick and Marc.
Nice. For me, it's watch and wait for that really, really, really good sale. Physical games are not an option for me. I do not have a 6-figure salary down here in good old Brazil, and games cost, as everything else I said before, they cost more, and so it's just not feasible for me to purchase. So we do a lot of game sharing. There's friends that I have here that we trade off games, and the few games that I do buy new, I let them borrow and they let me borrow games. We do some digital sharing, and then I just do sales, and so I have to be patient. I think the last game that I played, that I bought and played almost brand new, was Uncharted 4. That was 2 years ago, I think. So other than that, it can definitely, you definitely have to, unless you have a really good job or have a lot of extra income, you really have to plan it out if you really like video games, because it is not cheap whatsoever. Speaking of the rest of 2018, as Arctic Warlocks was asking about, Sheldor 4000 at Sheldor 40,001 asked, in the upcoming games, which are you most excited for, and are you more of a pre-ordering guy or wait till it drops in price? Well, I know for me, I already answered, I am not a pre-order guy. I wait till it drops in price. In terms of what I'm excited for the rest of the year, I can't even think off the top of my head. Like, other than Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, I'm not going to buy those. So I think Spider-Man's the game I'm most excited to when I go to the U.S. to get Spider-Man. So that's what game I'm excited for, but that's already come.
Yeah.
So you guys could maybe answer that question better than myself.
Yeah, well, for me, I wait until reviews really come up, until I either pre-order a game if the reviews come out early, or I wait until the game actually drops and the reviews come out. Because what I like to do is I like to see how the game does, what people like, what people don't like, before I actually purchase a game. I'm not really a pre-order kind of guy. But if I don't, like I said, like I have to pick and choose what kind of games I play. So when I do get the games that I've missed, they will, by the time I have time to play those games, they will have come down in price. So I kind of do both.
For me, the one game that I'm looking at is obviously Call of Duty with the Black Ops 4 and the Blackout. Pre-ordering for me is kind of dependent upon pre-order incentives. Like, for example, if they happen to have a beta that I want to be a part of, like they did with Black Ops, with the multiplayer beta and the Blackout beta. Those are mainly the times that I'll pre-order that, or if it's a game that I know I'm gonna get. And sometimes I'll do, places like GameStop, they do their like quote unquote midnight releases, and I may do that if I'm really excited for a game, but I don't pre-order very often. But yeah, that's me. Ronnie, how about you?
Well, I have never pre-ordered a game in my life.
And there it is.
And yeah, that's pretty much where it all ends for me right there. I learn a lot with you guys.
Not much more to say about that. Beyond 2018, guys, Melanie Novacell, she wants to know this. She said, "We've recently seen VR come into the gaming world. What do you think the next futuristic type gaming will be like? Holograms? Have they started working on that yet?" Who wants to educate?
That's a good question.
Good questions indeed.
Really, really good question. With
Quit
VR,
sucking up
let's
to your
start there.
wife, Patrick. That's just the best question I've heard all day.
Fine, you take it. You're first. Go.
Come on. You go ahead, Patrick. I was just messing with you.
No. Okay. So we'll start with VR. VR, I think, is a side character to the actual gaming genre, because when you put on the VR hat, you are shut off from the rest of the world. You can't see what's going on around you. There's really no multiplayer, like couch co-op or anything like that, where people want to play with other people. It's more of a single person experience. So I don't see VR really taking off in the way it is right now. What I see going forward is more of the augmented or mixed reality kind of thing, where you won't need like a VR goggles. You'll need more like what I envision is something like where you have like a pair of like reading glasses or some sort of glasses where you can see stuff around you and you can be in a world without being shut off from the world, if that makes any sense. I think that's where we will be heading. If that's a hologram, if that's something that you only need your phone for, if that's something that you can do not just in your living room, but out in the world, I think that's where we will be heading.
I will say this. My wife, for my 30th birthday, she took me to this place in North Carolina. It's called Shift, and Shift was a VR arcade, and they had it set up. They had it set up in like their own isolated booths, where it was like a small square space, where you had just enough room to be able to move around and stuff, and not. And the nice thing was they were all fitted with HTC Vives, which is kind of like a higher end VR. And the HTC Vive, it sort of tells you when you're getting close to a wall. Like you'll see this yellow grid pop up, so that way you're not running into walls and stuff. But yeah, I went and I played with my wife, and I was skeptical about VR, But that pretty much sold me on VR because I had so much fun. We played. I don't even remember the name of the game, but it was a zombie shooting game where it's very like next level House of the Dead. If you remember the House of the Dead shooter game that you'd see in like the arcade all the time, but it was such a fun experience to me. Whether it has staying power, I don't know. Those trends sometimes tend to move like the wind, but I was definitely sold on the potential for it and how cool it is. Where I think gaming would go in terms of futuristic is more so, and I think it may be closer future than we think, is games as a service, streaming and stuff like that. Now, granted, there are a lot of places around the world, around the country, and that kind of stuff that they don't have the best internet. Yeah. But, I think that's where we're going, is kind of like a Netflix kind of subscription kind of thing, just because people are wanting like a la carte type of stuff where they don't have to go to a store. They can just go and stream it or download it and just play. I think Microsoft, to that end, it really has something going with their Game Pass. It's a really good idea, and I think where they're really going in that direction, and that's where I think the future is going. But with VR, I don't know. It's too early to tell, I think.
I think they're going to adjust with VR. I agree with Pat in the sense that the way VR is right now, and where it's very single player focused, and you do shut yourself off when you put on the VR hat. That definitely is limiting, and I don't think that's very attractive to a lot of people. But I think that they're expanding that, and they're doing more multiplayer now. I heard about a game I think last week, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a real multiplayer shooter, and it's apparently really fun, and it does involve a lot of people like playing against each other, playing with each other. There's a lot more multiplayer interaction, and I think as some other video game podcasters and as I've heard some other people mention, that VR is really going to take off when it expands beyond video games, when it gets more into giving people an experience. People who maybe could never travel could see another part of the world in VR and be able to experience it without having to leave their home. And I think I think that's just going to make it even bigger in video games, and it's going to kind of go back and forth to where VR's, I think, going to be the bigger of the two. I also can see where, augmented reality can definitely be a really cool thing. But I see that more as video game centered, whereas VR is probably going to expand beyond video games and is going to reach a lot of different realms of life like that. So yeah. So do you guys have any closing thoughts? Any musical, inspirational, any things you want to share before we sign off for the evening?
Yes, I have one as well. So I kind of think we should always just allow people behind the scenes look at what's going on here. And I have to say that we're looking at, basically all of us are looking at each other except for Mark. Mark is looking at all of us, and we're looking at a picture of him and his wife, which is lovely. But
shout out to Miss Boucher.
Shout out to Miss Boucher. The longer the podcast goes, the bigger Patrick's hair gets.
I wish everyone could see it.
And towards the end of the podcast, it is way up there.
Yeah, it is.
He's like fro status.
Got Marge hair.
Like, we don't even need to keep time. We could just keep time based on what his hair's doing.
Yeah, phases of Patrick Novoseli's hair.
It's like phases of the moon, almost.
That's all for inspirational thoughts from me, though.
Nice. I like it.
I will say, for me, I got a couple of songs that you could add to your morning playlist, and also just to let people know, we actually have our own Spotify playlist It's called the Good Morning Guys Morning Playlist, and as episodes come out, and I happen to mention my picks for the morning playlist, I will add them to the morning playlist, and you can actually search that, check it out.
Cool, man.
And you can make it a part of your morning. So, first of all, happy National One Hit Wonder Day, which, if you're not familiar with what a one-hit wonder is, it's usually a musical artist that has a major hit within the top 10, I want to say, in terms of like Billboard charts and stuff like that. And so for me, one that I would add to our morning playlist is actually from a band called The Buggles, and it's a song called Video Killed the Radio Star. It's an 80s tune, and I'm sure people are scratching their heads like, what? Who is that? Well, obviously they were a one-hit wonder. They only had one famous song, but also they're actually better known for having the first music video to be played on MTV when on its launch day. That was the very first music video that they played, was for the song Video Killed the Radio Star. So definitely check that out. Another song I would add to the playlist is a song called Windows Are Rolled Down by a guy named Amos Lee. It's just very chill acoustic artist. Check him out. He is awesome. And then the third song that I would add for this week is probably a song from Phil Wickham. He's one of my favorite like Christian like worship artists, and it's a song called Great Things. So check it out. I'm going to add those to the playlist, and I hope you enjoy them.
Cool,
man.
Pat, you got anything?
Yeah, I have something that I like to see, because not a lot of times when we are in a workplace, in our personal lives, that we encourage one another. We are more willing to break people down, sit behind a digital facade via social media, tell people what they're doing wrong, the way they look, the way they act, what their opinions are. What I want to say is we need to turn that around. We need to actually encourage one another, because words have the power to change someone's day. If you tell someone that they did a good job, or I like your shoes, or your hair looks good today, or something that makes someone smile, we need to do that. We need to be kind to one another, just as Christ did for us. One of the famous quotes out there by Mother Teresa, she says, "The kind words are short and easy to speak, but their echoes are truly endless." Meaning the more you bring someone up, the happier they're going to be. They're going to remember when you say something nice about them. It really does go a long way, not only for that day, but that could be for weeks, months, years to come, if you just do something nice to someone. So please just encourage someone.
That's great, man, for sure. I think we can all try a little harder to encourage people. I'd say in connecting it with our topic today, I feel like there's a greater number of people that are part of the video game community that game, that they're a lot more positive. I think many years ago I got away from multiplayer games because I guess felt like every time I got online to play Halo Reach or something like that, I was listening to an 11-year-old kid say lots of words that I didn't really want to hear. And so video games and the video game community, people have come a long way, and it's just so awesome to see people streaming video games and at the same time connecting with other people, encouraging each other, and that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, man. Well, that's all for today. I think we're gonna shut it off there. If you listeners would like to communicate back with us, have some fun and serious conversations, there are a number of ways you can go beyond listening. You guys can subscribe, and of course keep downloading our weekly podcast every Thursday morning on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud. You could also rate us on iTunes, because nothing gives that extra, that much needed extra life like a nice review and some stars. And you are, of course, welcome to connect with us as a podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at the Good Morning Guys or at the GMG Podcast. And also, personally, you can find us at
Nova Beyond on Twitter.
Ronnie Johannes, Twitter.
Musique829 on Twitter.
And for me, at MTTG Brazil Team on Twitter. So, all right, my podcasting brothers, our dear listeners, friends, and family, go get your good morning this week. May God bless and guide you, your lives as you work and live and game. Ciao. See you next week as we will be coming at you live from the USA, baby.
Woo!
1, 2, 3, 4.